Very warm welcome to Amish 5858. I am Ahmed Shackle. Following are the latest news headlines which have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African and Australian news channels and all other news agencies. So please, let's go to the news.
Tonight, breaking news from the Vatican. For the first time, we hear from cardinals who were inside the conclave. What was it? Why did they choose the first American pope? And the moment the cardinal born in Chicago had his head in his hands, knowing he was about to become pope. Also tonight, hear the major failure again at an American airport. The air traffic control computers suddenly going down, losing contact with passenger planes. First tonight, Pope Leo XIV, the first pope from the United States, celebrating his first mass here back in the Sistine Chapel, where he was just hours before. Tonight, the cardinals who were in the chapel during the conclave. What happened when Cardinal Prevost from Chicago reached the 2/3 majority, the 89 votes needed? The scene inside the chapel. Also, what he said today during his mass, the message he's sending already. Tonight, back in the U.S., in Chicago, celebrating one of their own. Tonight here, you will hear from his brother. They played Wordle and Words with Friends before the conclave. The bells ringing in Villanova, his alma mater. Catholic school children jumping with joy, learning the Pope was not only American, but from their hometown. In that moment, the Cardinal from Chicago suddenly put his head in his hands. The other major news this Friday night, another terrifying incident at Newark Airport. Air traffic control radar going dark again. Air traffic controllers losing communications with passenger jets. What's going on? Tonight, the U.S. and China and what President Trump is now signaling about his 145% tariffs on China. Will he reduce them, and will they make a deal? The storm hitting just as the weekend starts. The flood watch in the Northeast. Heavy rain from Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York. Tonight, the Soviet-era spacecraft launched back in 1972, hurtling toward Earth. What they're now saying about where it could go. And tonight, the remarkable images right here at the Vatican as we prepare for a primetime special tonight, the American Pope. From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight with David Dorn, reporting to...
Harrison Fields is a special assistant to the president and White House principal deputy press secretary. Harrison, welcome. President Trump put out a tweet earlier, 80% tariff on China seems right, up to Scott B. Right after the briefing that Caroline did today, CNN came out with a headline, Inside Trump's Trade Negotiations. CNN gets a lot wrong. But here's what they said. They said that the tweet was intended to elevate Scott Bessent in the eyes of his Chinese counterparts. Whether they're right or wrong about that, who knows? But here's what they're right about. And I saw this firsthand as press secretary. I'm sure you're seeing it now. Trump is a negotiator. He thinks through the tweets he puts out, the things he says at that Oval Office desk. There is strategy to each and every word leading up to a crucial negotiation like this weekend. What are you seeing behind the scenes from this negotiator?
You're seeing a commander-in-chief that is in full control of this country, that knows exactly what he's doing. This is why we've had so many countries line up to the front door of the White House willing to do deals with President Trump because he is a deal maker-in-chief. We just saw the historic investment, the historic deal with Great Britain, one of our closest allies. This is a deal that's going to bolster our farmers, our ranchers. This is going to better our economy, better our workforce, and level the playing field with one of our trading partners, our fifth largest trading partner, the UK. This is a deal that was hailed in the UK and one that is hailed in the United States of America. This is just one of many deals that this president is willing to make because he is focused on the American worker and the American economy.
Harrison, this idea about the planes and the aging infrastructure and that analogy I gave about, the lights going out when you're driving and you wake up and, oh my goodness, where am I? It's really scary. And if I were a Democrat out there, I would be calling you guys and I'd be saying, how can I help? Can I get you funding? What can we do? This is bipartisan. Are you hearing much outreach from Democrats to say, let's fix this together?
No, Kaylee, you played it earlier. You have the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, the city in which Newark Airport is in, trying to let out illegal immigrants from a detention center. That is his priorities. That is the Democrats' priorities. It's not the American people. It's illegal immigrants. This goes to show you where this party is. Listen, this administration, the Trump administration, was handed a country in disarray.
Tonight, the first American Pope gives his first Mass in English. Pope Leo's historic homily, what he said to the faithful gathered celebrating his new papacy, plus what we've learned about how he consolidated support to beat out the competition, what American cardinals are saying, and why many were looking for someone to follow in Pope Francis's path. The politics of the pontiff, what he said about the environment, immigration, and more. And how will he work with the White House? And from Chicagoland to Peru, we travel to trace Pope Leo's roots. Our team reporting from across the planet tonight. Newark Airport losing radar displays again. The urgent air traffic control radio call demanding more pressure on officials as delays stretch to 4 hours. The showdown at an ICE detention facility as Democratic lawmakers say they're doing oversight and DHS says they broke in. A major city mayor arrested. Plus, a federal judge orders a tough student to be released after being detained. Keith Morrison's exclusive new reporting. The record showing Brian Koberger looked up photos, videos, and news days after the Idaho student murders.
This is NBC Nightly News, reporting tonight from the Vatican.
Tonight, America celebrates its first pope.
It's exciting, American.
What a joyful coincidence.
From his hometown of Chicago to the Vatican, excitement.
I know I can rely on each and every one of you to walk with me.
As Pope Leo XIV enters an extraordinary time on the world stage. The trade war hits home.
Employers are holding off on hiring.
Unemployment ticks up in the face of tariff uncertainty. A new approach to Parkinson's treatment.
Just like that.
We take you inside the Canadian trial, giving some patients incredible relief.
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson.
Thanks for joining us. On his first full day as the head of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Leo XIV is setting the tone for the work to come, telling the faithful he wants the church to become more of a beacon of light in the world. He celebrated his first Mass as pontiff in the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City, while in his hometown of Chicago, people were celebrating him. The choice of this first ever American Pope feeling very personal to many. The surprise that came with that election is still rippling through Rome and Vatican City, where, as Margaret Evans shows us, in a nod to his roots, Leo began his remarks today in English.
The dawn of a new era for the Catholic Church.
Trump's tariffs on Canadian jobs.
To see the aggregate number reach that size in 1 month, very worrisome.
What does the future hold for the workforce?
People who don't just occupy portfolios, but they get things done.
Who could be in or left out as Prime Minister Carney prepares to unveil his new cabinet?
In my brain, I have to readjust because he is our brother. In my own mind, he is my brother.
Plus, who is Pope Leo XIV? Learning more about the new leader of the Catholic Church from the Canadians who know him.
In Iran, available on France 24 and France24.com.
Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. Our headlines this hour. India accused Pakistan of a blatant escalation after another wave of attacks. Pakistan launched what it said were counterstrikes against Indian bases and called a meeting of its top nuclear body. We'll get the latest from our correspondent Navadita Kumari, who's in Jammu City in the disputed region of Kashmir. The leaders of France, Britain, Germany, and Poland make an unprecedented visit to Kyiv. It comes as Europe and the U.S. push for an unconditional 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine, calls that Russia has so far resisted. And making good on her promise, the Mexican president says her country is suing Google over its renaming of the Gulf of Mexico. The tech giant relabeled it the Gulf of America for U.S. users after an executive order by Donald Trump.
Good morning. Is Labour's red wall finally crumbling?
New polling shows almost a third of Labour voters met the 2020 election, many feeling what's called buyer's remorse for how they voted.
Well, nearly 60% say Labour's badly misjudged the impact of migration. Meanwhile, Reform UK continues to lead in the polls substantially, and the former Labour Transport Secretary Louise Hay calls on Sir Keir Starmer to take a clear stance on what Labour stands for.
not taking the fight to them. We're not taking the fight, I don't think, to reform on those issues. Meanwhile, today, the PM will meet with European leaders at the coalition of the willing talks in Ukraine as calls intensify for Russia to agree to a ceasefire.
The Soviet-era spacecraft set to crash back to Earth in just over an hour. It's been stuck in orbit for half a century, but where will it come down?
Elsewhere, new polling shows support falling for the monarchy, especially among young people, with growing calls for an elected head of state. So today we're asking if the monarchy still has the nation's backing.
With life expectancy in Yorkshire amongst the UK's lowest, an oddly couple has launched a programme to help people live healthier, longer lives.
Sounds good to me. And at 85 years, brother John Green is embarking on an 8-week journey around the British Isles using only buses, raising funds for charity and building excitement for his hospital's 900th anniversary.
It's Advantage Sunderland in the Championship playoff semi-finals as they secured a late first leg win at Coventry last night. There's a day of Premier League action ahead, while in tennis, Jack Draper and Emma Raducanu progressed at the Italian Open.
Hello there, good morning. Lots of warm sunshine to go around this weekend, but is there a chance you could see a thunderstorm on Sunday? Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Sophie Reaper. This is GB News Breakfast.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm John Dickerson. It is written in the book of James that you don't know what tomorrow will bring. Well, here's what it brought, written in headlines all over the United States. There is, for the first time, an American Pope from Chicago. One newspaper said that the city that gave us Da Bears has now given us Da Pope.
And while the news is still sinking in there in the States, here in Rome, the new Pope got right down to the business of leading his flock all around the world. Leo XIV's message for the Catholic Church was to light up the dark nights of this world. This was his first Mass as Pope. It was held in the same place where he was elected, the Sistine Chapel.
I know I can rely on each and every one of you to walk with me as we continue as a church.
His homily encouraged the faithful to strengthen their relationship.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett. Amna Nawaz is away. On the News Hour tonight, newly elected Pope Leo XIV holds his first Mass and now faces the task of addressing the Catholic Church's biggest challenges. Legal battles over the Trump administration's immigration policies heat up as a top advisor suggests the White House could suspend the right to due process. We speak with one of the students fighting deportation.
Release communicates to the whole country here that democracy is still functioning.
And in Russia, President Vladimir Putin uses an annual celebration of victory over Nazi Germany to strengthen his country's alliance with China.
Democracy depends on a free press. Please support our independent journalism at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. At the Vatican, a conclave of Roman Catholic cardinals has elected Robert Francis Prevost as the new pope. He becomes the first U.S. pontiff to lead the world's 1.4 billion Roman Catholics. He's chosen the name Leo XIV, suggesting a possible emphasis on social justice. Pope Leo XIII, who ruled from 1878 to 1903, condemned slavery as a, quote, wretched yoke that has oppressed many people, unquote. Leo XIV called for peace and dialogue as he addressed the faithful from the Vatican Thursday.
We must seek together how to be a missionary church, a church that builds bridges, dialogue, always open to receiving, like this square, with open arms to all who need our charity, our presence, dialogue, and love.
Pope Leo grew up on Chicago's South Side. He's also a naturalized citizen of Peru, where he served the church for 2 decades. He's criticized the Trump administration's attack on immigrants. Just weeks ago, he responded to Vice President J.D. Vance's invocation of a Christian principle to justify the mistreatment of immigrants. Pope Leo posted on social media, quote, J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. Pope Leo has also previously attacked LGBTQ people and said the, quote, homosexual homosexual lifestyle is incompatible with the Catholic Church. We'll have more on the new Pope after headlines will go to Rome. India's military says it's intercepted Pakistani drones and missiles targeting 2 military bases in Indian-administered Kashmir. And another base in India's Punjab state, Pakistan's defense minister.
Hello, good morning. It is 7 a.m. on today's programme. India and Pakistan trade fire across them.
And it's advantage Sunderland's in the race to get to the Championship playoff final. They beat Coventry 2-1.
It is Saturday, the 10th of May. Pakistan hits multiple targets in India with medium-range missiles. India responds with strikes on military bases in Pakistan. Police in Indian-controlled Jammu say that 5 people there have been killed. Both the United States and China offer to help to defuse the situation. Also ahead, the head of the Royal Navy steps back amid an investigation into claims he had a relationship with a female colleague. Sir Keir Starmer arrives in Kyiv alongside European counterparts to push Russia into a 13-day ceasefire. Police investigate an alleged attack on a prison officer by the Southport triple child killer Axel Nukbana.
And in the week they're knocked out of the Champions League, Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta says his side have taken a step back in the Premier League this season.
Good morning and thank you for joining us on the Breakfast programme. Pakistan and India have exchanged fire across their shared border overnight. Islamabad launched a military operation into India using post-show.
Today, tensions rise. Pakistan's military retaliates, accusing India of striking 3 of its air bases. A New South Wales grandmother faces court charged with the murder of 2 young boys. World leaders in Russia for a lavish parade marking the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. And Pope Leo celebrates his first Mass with the cardinals that elected him. Hello, welcome to ABC News. I'm Lorna Dumpling. Pakistan's
This is Asia Now.
Hello, it's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in Delhi and 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Angela Lind at the side. Pakistan's military says it has launched retaliatory attacks against India, hitting an airfield and an Air Force station. Islamabad says that New Delhi earlier fired missiles at 3 key air bases in the country. World leaders have urged restraint. U.S. President Donald Trump signals lowering tariffs on Chinese imports to 80% from 145%. Senior officials from both sides meet for crucial trade talks in Switzerland.
The president still remains with his position that he is not going to unilaterally bring down tariffs on China. We need to see concessions from them as well.
And major European leaders in Kyiv for talks with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, begging to ramp up pressure on Russia to accept an unconditional 30-day ceasefire. Pakistan's armed forces say they have launched a military operation.
Africa News. The news.
News that the United States may be planning to deport migrants to Libya has been met with consternation by rights groups. The Trump administration has expanded its efforts to remove migrants to third-party countries, despite legal challenges. Libya's rival governments have both said they would refuse to accept the deportees.
What's striking about the choice of Libya is that this is a country where the conditions are particularly challenging for refugees and other migrants. Migrants have been repeatedly targeted by militia, by the authorities. Many migrants end up in detention centers that are managed by militia or the government, where they get torture, where their family get blackmailed to secure their release. There's been repeatedly report of mass grave, most recently in February, in different parts of the country. In 2024, IOM reported that there'd been about 1,000 migrants who'd been killed in Libya, but we know that figures are likely to be much higher.
Whether the deportations will take place is still unclear. Both US law and Libya's own restrictive asylum procedure argue against them.
This type of operation is expensive, it's difficult to set up, and so we can speculate that it might be, to show if you get to the US, you might be sent to this place that is extremely...
The first group of white Afrikaans-speaking South Africans is reportedly due to arrive in the United States early next week. They claim to be persecuted in their home country and have been granted refugee status by President Donald Trump. The US leader in February signed an executive order halting all aid to South Africa, accusing the government of doing terrible things to Afrikaners. He described them as the victims of unjust racial discrimination, saying their land was being taken away from them. Trump's views appear to stem from a recent law that allows land expropriation without compensation in extremely rare cases. South African officials say the policy is part of efforts to address land ownership disparities that are one of the starkest legacies of apartheid, and that to date, no land has been seized. Many prominent Afrikaners and other South Africans have shouted down Trump's statements, saying they're patently false.
It's a hat-trick for Mo Salah after the Liverpool forward was voted Britain's Footballer of the Year for a record-tying third time. The accolade is handed out by the Football Writers Association and is the oldest.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye-bye.